Hi everyone, Dr. Gillespie here to walk you through your developmentally appropriate practice project for your future career assignment. That is your final exam for this course. So to get us started, I'm going to flip screen so that you can see what I'm seeing in regard to your project. So for your DAP project, which is just short for developmentally appropriate practice project, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using developmental research to explain why we do certain things with specific age groups that we will be working with in the future. So developmentally appropriate practices is just an approach that's grounded in research. So it's practices, strategies, activities, materials, and methods that we use that are appropriate in regard to the cognitive, social, emotional, and physical domains of the age groups. So for this project, one of the most important things that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to really focus down on what your future career may look like. So what is it that you would be doing, and what is the age group you would be working with? And sometimes the age group could overlap. So for instance, if you were in business and you were working in a child retail store, well, your clientele would be mothers and children. So getting children involved in the things that you may have in your store may be a certain aspect of what you might use for this project. However, you would also have to think about the parents and also your employees that you may be working with as well. So you really have to fine tune for this project. So when we work with certain age groups, we have to understand that there are certain things that we do. So for instance, infants and toddlers, we do a lot of tummy time, which is where they're on the floor, they're building their muscle skills, they're really trying to learn how to crawl, roll over, hold their head up. But we don't do that as much with early childhood age in kindergarten. We don't just lay them on the mat in kindergarten. We do a little bit more with them. So we might be teaching them how to catch a ball instead, or how to throw a ball, or how to hold a pencil correctly. So there's certain things that we do at certain times depending on the age. Same thing with adolescents. We wouldn't have adolescents do tummy time. They would be doing something more advanced based off of their level of development. So for this project, you're really going to be focusing on a career that you would like to do. And this career doesn't have to be set in stone. It could just be something that you're thinking about. And like most of us, our careers change as we develop and continue with our classes. So you're going to have to pick a future career, really explain what that career is and the individuals you will be working with, so that the activities and the strategies and the materials that you use in your project are developmentally appropriate for that age group. So the directions for the project, you're going to use your textbook, you're going to use outside sources, graphics, illustrations. It could be the PowerPoints from class, it could be presentations from your peers. But you're going to create a PowerPoint presentation addressing the following 6 prompts. Now, since this class is online, we can't present it in class, but you are going to present using the Microsoft PowerPoint recording function like we did for your Who Am I project. So make sure that you go and refresh yourself on how to use that with the hyperlink. And then in Blackboard, you're going to upload your recorded presentation as an assignment and in the discussion board. Because part of your final exam project, which we'll talk about coming up, is you are going to have to respond to your peers, and you're going to be asking questions and having a dialogue with them, particularly maybe asking them why they decided that this was appropriate instead of something else being appropriate. Because sometimes there's more than one answer to what is developmentally appropriate. So it's all about how you can explain what it is that you're doing. So the first prompt is your future career. This is very straightforward. Describe what your future career would be, whom you would be working with, the age range, and explain why you want to work with these individuals. So the more detailed you can be in that, the better. In regard to the physical domain, you're going to describe the physical activities of the physical abilities, of the individuals you will be working with based on their age range. So based upon however old they are, they should be able to do these things. What are their milestones? What are their fine motor skills? What are their gross motor skills? What are they still working on? Have they developed these already and still just strengthening them? And then based on your future career, describe 4 physical activities that are developmentally appropriate for this age group and individuals. So an example of that would be, again, we use tummy time for infants and toddlers, whereas in early childhood, we would focus more on catching a ball or throwing a ball and not really on building head stamina and building up neck muscles. Now, for each of these activities, you're going to explain why it's developmentally appropriate for your career and the age group. Make sure that you're tying it back to what it is that you're going to be doing in your future career. And then you're going to explain which theorist, or it could be one theorist, it could be more than one theorist, that would support your activity. And explain why the theorist would support this activity. The third prompt is your cognitive domain. So you're going to describe the cognitive abilities of the individuals you'll be working with, and what are those milestones? Are they able to think critically? Are they still concrete learners? What are the things that they are able to do at this age? And then based upon your future career, you're going to describe 5 cognitive activities that are developmentally appropriate for this age group and individuals. Again, make sure that you're tying this back to your future career, making it very specific. So I would do this cognitive activity because in my future career, blank. And you would just explain that. Now, for the 5 activities, you need to have one cognitive activity for each of the following theorists. So out of the 5, you need to have an activity that would be supported by Piaget, Brunner, Bandura, Vygotsky, and Skinner. And for each of those, you're going to have to explain why the theorist would support this activity. So be very, very specific on each of those theorists and why they would support it. Also, make sure that you explain why these activities are appropriate for your future career and age group. For the 4th prompt, it's the social-emotional domain. So again, you're going to describe the social-emotional abilities of the individuals you will be working with based on their age range. So what are some of the social-emotional milestones of this age group? Are they able to control their emotions better? Are they still risk-seeking? Do they still care more about their peers than anybody else? And so forth. Are they more dependent on their parents? This all depends on your age group that you're going to be working with. So based on your prospective future career, you're going to describe 4 cognitive activities that are developmentally appropriate for this age group and individuals. Now, for these activities, you're going to have 2 activities for each of the following theorists. So you're going to have 2 activities that Erickson would support, and you're going to explain why. And you're going to have 2 activities for Kohlberg, and you're going to explain why this theorist would support these 2 activities. And then prompt 5 is your conclusion. So based on the information that you gave in the presentation, you're just going to provide a slide where you wrap up what you said throughout slides 1 through 4, well, prompts 1 through 4. And make sure that you state your future career again. So you're going to re-emphasize what it is that you would like to do as your future career and why it's important to do things that are developmentally appropriate for the age group that you're working with. And then the last part is prompt 6, which is just your reference slide. Make sure that you are using sources, your textbook, the slides, the internet, anything that you're using. Make sure that you have an APA reference of where you got your information. Make sure it's on the reference slide and that you have in-text citations on all of your slides that are appropriate. For instance, in prompt 1, you may not have any in-text citations because that's all coming from you. But for 1 through 4 in particular, you will have to have in-text citations showing where you got your information. And for each in-text citation, there should be a reference on your reference slide that goes together. So making sure that we're doing that. And here's a link to Al Purdue APA that you can use as well. There's also the APA reference sheet that you can use as well to help you with that. Now, with all of this, I have created a template for you that you can use. And if you will notice, there are 23 slides in total that you're going to be creating. Now, before you get a little overwhelmed, some of these are transition slides. So they're really not 23. You have a title slide, and then you have transition slides for the physical domain, the cognitive domain, the social emotional domain, the conclusion, and your references. So some of these slides you will not put information on per se. Maybe you might put a picture there that goes with your career or something like that. So the first one is your title slide, and then if you notice, the next part's your future career. You can add more slides to this, but what I did is I took the prompts and I put them over into slides to kind of help you with the organizational aspect of this project. So the future career's there, then you have your physical. This is a title slide, a transition slide. So all you would have to do, maybe put a picture there if you wanted to. And then you have your physical abilities with the milestones, and then you have physical activity 1, physical activity 2, physical activity 3, and physical activity 4. And you're going to notice on each of those, you have this section right here called in-text citation. That is where you need to put your information for your source. So for instance, if your in-text citation was me, you would write, if I can spell my own name right, you would put something like that. So it would be the author's last name and a comma and the year that it was published. Now let's say that you have more than one. You would put a semicolon and then maybe it was Henry and it was 1998. And then you can size this however you want to, but this would show me that you have an in-text citation and I would have a reference of where you got your information. Now, something about in-text citations, making sure if you don't know the author's name, use the organization. If there's no date, you may take out the 1998, let's say there wasn't one, and you would put nd.d. So n.d. n.d. Okay. Now, let's say, so if there was no author, and there was also no organization, then you would go with the title. So make sure that you're really referencing your Al Purdue and your APA reference sheet for this. But that is what an in-text citation would look like. Then if we kept going, you go to your cognitive domain, you would explain that, and then you would have a section for Piaget, for Bruner, for Bandura, for Vygotsky, for Skinner. And then your social emotional, and then you would explain the abilities. And then you would have 2 activities that Erickson would support and 2 activities that Kohlberg would support. And then you have your conclusion transition where you wrap up your reference and then your reference slide. So like I was saying, some of these are transitional slides. So just make sure that you fill out all the ones that have information on them. And then anything that doesn't that you may need to add more slides to, it's fine, but don't take any slides away because everything that's in there is from your directions and guidelines. So as long as you fill in all the information that's on the slides, you're going to do what you're supposed to for your project. So one more thing that I need to show you is going to be what you do for after you post your presentation to the discussion board. So remember, this project goes in 2 places. It goes in to the assignment folder, which is where I give you the official grade, and then into the discussion board where you're going to respond to your peers. So here is your guidelines for your discussion board. So after you post it, you need to respond to 2 peers' projects. And in your response, you need to do these 5 things. 1, you're going to tell them what they did well. 2, tell them what they can improve on and why this would improve their project. Tell them what you agree with and why you agree with it. Tell them what you disagree with and why you disagree. And then ask them 2 questions about their project. Now, these questions could be about parts that were confusing or parts that you wanted them to explain in more detail, but make sure that they're not superficial questions. So asking about why they used a certain font is not appropriate, or about their picture choice, or about why they used a certain font theme or PowerPoint theme. So make sure that it's a good, meaningful question, particularly around their theorist, or maybe if they didn't list a certain milestone that you thought should be there, you explain that to them. Now, after you receive responses from peers, respond to your peers' post. Part of your grade is not only asking questions and responding, but responding back to the questions that your peers ask you. So make sure that you go in and that you're answering the questions that they ask of your project. Now, with all of that, make sure that each peer in the class has 2 peer responses. So if you go into someone's post and you already see that they have 2 peer responses, go respond to someone else's. Don't overwhelm someone with 5 peer responses when somebody only has 1 or somebody may have none. Go and respond to different peers. So if you see someone already has 2, go and respond to somebody else. So you wouldn't want somebody to do that to you, so you wouldn't want to do that to somebody else either. So I know that's a lot of information at once, so if you have any questions or you need help brainstorming, please email me and I'll be glad to set up a Google Hangout time with you. We can discuss what it is you want to do for your future career, and I can really help you understand and brainstorm this as well. There is a document in the not in the assignment folder, but in the materials folder that is titled Possible DAP Activities. I tried to break it up into the majors that are in this course to kind of give you some ideas of some activities that you may do. So like modeling. Modeling is something that all majors can do. Showing somebody how to do something, but explaining what you're going to model and why that's developmentally appropriate would look a little different from an education major to a business major to a dance major to a sports management major. So you have to be very, very detailed in the project itself in your future career. So if you have any questions, please email me and set up a time to talk with me, and I'll be glad to help you brainstorm and plan out your project a little bit more. Good luck.